Subscribe to the shared channel so we can bring you more content. Sign up now on Temu and get an exclusive discount. Don't wait! When you register today, you'll receive a special discount coupon to use on your purchases. Take advantage of amazing deals and save in style. A night of chaos and mystery. On a night marked by absolute darkness, a group of criminals carried out one of the most audacious robberies in recent times. Taking advantage of a blackout that left the city shrouded in shadows, they broke into a bank located in the heart of the financial district. The meticulously planned operation involved the use of oxygen cylinders to breach security barriers and access the main vault. Despite the initial precision, the situation quickly began to deteriorate. Gene Keeney, one of the group's leaders, left traces that the police would soon use to identify him. The adrenaline of the escape led to fatal mistakes, the desperation to flee with the heavy cylinders became apparent, and the police started piecing together the puzzle. Years earlier, in 2017, Gene Keeney had already been identified at another crime scene, a bank robbery in the interior of Rio Grande do Norte. On that occasion, he left behind a yogurt container with biological traces, providing the police with a crucial clue that would lead to his identification. As the criminals' convoy tried to escape through the city amidst the blackout, they were surprised by rifle fire. Chaos took over, with vehicles crashing and desperate criminals abandoning their cars and fleeing on foot. Fear gripped everyone, and the uncertainty of where the shots were coming from only heightened the panic. In the midst of the confusion, two brave and determined Rota police officers managed to stop the convoy and recover a significant portion of the stolen money. Despite the losses, the police were able to trace the heavy weaponry left behind and identify the connections between the criminals and past operations. However, not all those involved were captured that night. Grando, one of the twins in the gang, was severely injured in the hand during the escape and was abandoned by his accomplices in a wooded area. Disoriented and afraid of being captured, he hid for days, trying to survive until he was rescued by a couple living nearby. Months passed before the police finally managed to capture Grando. In a private hospital, he unsuccessfully attempted to undergo reconstructive surgery on his injured hand. The police, always one step behind, finally located and arrested him before he could complete his escape. Gene Keeney, however, continued to defy the authorities. Known for his ability to escape from the most complicated situations, he still frequented the same gym and maintained a public life, despite being one of the most wanted criminals in the country. His arrogance, however, became his downfall. The police, closely monitoring his activities, finally managed to capture him in a barbershop, where he was preparing for another day of training. The growing suspicion. The city, still shaken by the events of that night, woke up under the weight of growing distrust. The streets, usually bustling, were now marked by suspicious glances and whispered conversations. News of the robbery and the subsequent police chase spread quickly, and Gene Keeney's name was on everyone's lips. The media spared no details, turning the criminal into an almost mythical figure, a symbol of the criminal audacity that seemed to be one step ahead of the law. At the police stations, tension was palpable. The officers, exhausted from so many hours without rest, reviewed the evidence and discussed strategies to finally capture all those involved. The investigation team knew that time was crucial. The longer it took, the lower the chances of capturing the remaining criminals and recovering the stolen money. Meanwhile, Gene Keeney continued to challenge the police. His criminal record was extensive, and he had built a reputation for being almost impossible to capture. Some more experienced officers recalled previous cases where Gene narrowly escaped, leaving behind only minimal traces that were insufficient to incriminate him directly. He was meticulous, careful never to leave anything that could incriminate him directly, but this time, his slip with the oxygen cylinders and the haste in fleeing had changed the game. Gene Keeney's past. Gene Keeney, born in one of Rio de Janeiro's most dangerous favelas, was shaped by an environment of violence and necessity. From a young age, he showed an unusual ability to plan and execute criminal actions, quickly rising through the ranks of local gangs. His sharp intelligence and ability to blend into any environment made him a natural leader but also a constant target for law enforcement. As a teenager, Gene Keeney participated in his first bank robbery. He carefully observed the mistakes made by his partners and promised himself that when he was in charge, the operations would be perfect. Over the years, he built a network of contacts that included everyone from petty criminals to powerful figures in organized crime. This network helped him plan and execute increasingly audacious robberies, always one step ahead of the authorities. However, Gene Keeney's fate was far from just a series of victories. In 2017, he made a mistake that almost cost him his freedom. During a bank robbery in the interior of Rio Grande do Norte, he left behind a yogurt container with biological traces. This slip gave the police the first concrete evidence to link him to a specific crime. From that moment on, Gene became a wanted man, forced to live in the shadows, always on the run. The hunt continues. The capture of Grando was a significant blow to the criminal group, but Gene Keeney remained on the run, and the police knew he would not give up easily. The investigations began to intensify, with teams working day and night to track every move of the criminal. Meanwhile, Gene planned his next move. He knew the noose was tightening but also trusted in his ability to outwit the police once again. He had survived chases before and believed he could do it again. With a new plan in mind, Gene began to move his pieces, using old contacts and new alliances to ensure his survival. But the noose was closing in relentlessly. The police, now equipped with more information and determined to end the crime wave, began tracking all of Gene's movements. They monitored his old alliances, traced his finances, and kept an eye on his acquaintances. Every little clue was a piece of the puzzle that would lead them to him. The trap. Aware that Gene Keeney was a master at disappearing, the police decided to set a trap. They knew he had a pattern. He always returned to familiar places when things got tough. One of those places was an old gym where he used to train daily. Gene always believed that routine helped him maintain the calm and clarity needed to plan his operations. However, he underestimated the police's determination to capture him. After monitoring the gym for weeks, the police finally had their chance. On what seemed like an ordinary day, Gene arrived for his morning workout, unaware that he was about to fall into a meticulously planned trap. The capture team was ready, strategically positioned to ensure he had no escape route. As Gene left the gym, he was quickly surrounded by police officers. Even with all his experience, Gene could not react in time. The capture was quick and precise, giving him no chance to escape. The arrest of Gene Keeney was a milestone in the fight against organized crime, but also a reminder that justice, although sometimes slow, is relentless. The robbery was planned and executed with precision, involving a gang specializing in bank heists. The action took place on a dark night, taking advantage of the city's partially failed public lighting system, which left the streets in dim light and made visibility difficult for any surveillance attempt. Planning. Target selection. The gang chose a bank in a central area, but one that was not very busy at night. The bank had a large sum of money due to salary payments and transfers from local businesses. Site study. The criminals spent weeks studying the bank and its surroundings, analyzing the security guards' routines, times of least activity, blind spots in the security cameras, and possible escape routes. They also monitored the police response in case of emergencies in the area. Disabling communications. To prevent a quick response from the authorities, the group disabled nearby communication antennas, making it difficult to use cell phones and radios in the area during the robbery. Execution of the robbery. Bank invasion. In the middle of the night, the group, consisting of 6 men, broke into the bank. They were heavily armed and wore masks to conceal their identities. The entry was quick and silent, thanks to the use of specialized tools to disable alarms and security cameras. Overpowering the security guards, 2 security guards on duty were quickly overpowered. They were disarmed and restrained, being held at gunpoint while the rest of the group executed the plan. Accessing the vault, using oxygen cylinders and blowtorches, the criminals opened the bank's main vault. The process was meticulously planned, and within less than 20 minutes, the vault was breached. They stole about 3,700,000 Brazilian reals in cash, distributed in several bags to facilitate transport. Escape. The escape was planned with 2 escape routes. However, an unforeseen event occurred. During the exit, one of the criminals, known as Giancini, panicked and dropped one of the gas cylinders, which caught the attention of some witnesses. Despite the setback, the gang managed to escape in 2 vehicles. Confrontation with the police were quickly alerted after the cylinder fell and began a pursuit. During the escape, the main vehicle was hit by gunfire, resulting in an intense confrontation. The group split up, with some members abandoning the vehicles and fleeing on foot. Consequences: identification of the criminals. After the escape, the police managed to identify Giancini from the DNA left on an oxygen cylinder. He had already been identified in a previous robbery through biological traces found in a yogurt container. Pursuit and capture: the gang went into hiding for weeks, but the police continued the pursuit, using all the clues left behind to track their movements. Giancini was captured after being found at a gym he frequented, trying to maintain a normal routine to avoid suspicion. Partial recovery of the money: only a portion of the stolen money was recovered during the police operation, with the rest of the amount possibly hidden or laundered by the gang members who remain at large. Impact on the community: the robbery left the community in shock, raising questions about the bank's security and the effectiveness of the police. Fear spread, and many began to doubt their safety in a city that was now perceived as vulnerable to organized crime. Public opinion and media coverage: the media followed every detail of the investigation, turning the criminals into infamous figures and the police into heroes, despite the difficulties faced during the case. Public pressure for a quick resolution put additional pressure on the authorities, who worked tirelessly to bring all the culprits to justice.